The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you. On March 24, 2026, the President of European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, stood in Australia and admitted something that should make every African's blood run cold. She admitted the world we live in is brutal, harsh, and unforgiving. Brutal, harsh, and unforgiving. She admitted that the comfort blanket of yesterday is ripped away. Why is she being so honest all of a sudden? Because Europe is in panic. Europe is in panic. They have lost Russian gas. They are terrified of Chinese dominance. And most importantly, though she didn't admit it publicly at the podium, they are being kicked out of Africa. And we know when it comes to that one, they will definitely not tell the whole world that Africa has kicked them out and we are taking control over our resources. Listen to the code. She told Australia that Europe cannot be over-dependent on any supplier for critical minerals. Have you seen where Africa comes in? Translation for Africa. For decades, Europe's comfort blanket was cheap. Coins minerals from the African continent. But the alliance of the AES, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso has just ripped the blanket away. Has just ripped that blanket away. They have revoked colonial era mining contracts and told Europe to leave. Europe isn't in Australia because of friendship, we know, or sheer democracy. No. They are there because they are resource-starved.
Another of the realities that this new world has shown us is that dependencies can be weaponized. Europe is in a dangerous moment. War has raged in Ukraine for 4 years, and there's little prospect of this ending anytime soon. In the Middle East, the new conflict rages. Countries that build economic models on the very premise of the stability and safety they provide are facing a new reality. The world we live in is brutal, harsh, and unforgiving. It feels upside down. What we knew as certainties are in question. The comfort blanket of yesterday is ripped away. It is confronting. But the world we are living in is also a more honest one. We are saying out loud what has changed and how we are changing. Against this backdrop, my visit is not a symbolic trip. What we sign today will unleash a new era of economic and security partnership. Europe, a continent of 27 member states and 450 million people, is changed. And we're not just open for businesses. We are here to begin a new epoch in our relationship rooted in the spirit of friendship. Mr. Speaker, it takes longer to cross Australia than to fly anywhere within Europe. Your far horizons, identified so eloquently by the iconic Australian poet Dorothea Mackellar, is a reminder that the distance has traditionally been a barrier to our relationship, but today, geography is no more our destiny, and distance is no longer a protection or a luxury. The world has changed, but we get to choose how to shape our responses. And we do this without losing sight of our culture and our connections, and they run deep, built on the foundations of the post-war surge of migration into Australia. These millions of Europeans carried the same dream of hope, opportunity, prosperity, and a better life for their next generation. And while we not always have maximized this potential, Our kinship has always bound us. And our cultures have always understood one another. I'm looking forward to drinking my first flat white on Australian soil. And I'm also looking forward to sampling a pavlova. Or do I have to wait to visit New Zealand to try that delicacy? Standing here in this majestic chamber, modeled after the British House of Commons, but rendered in this eucalypt color, I am reminded of how young and vibrant your democracy is. But linked to our enduring democracy in Europe, born in Greece thousands of years ago. But your history is even more ancient. And I acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and the world's oldest continuing culture. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, our continent owes so much to Australia. You fought for our safety, for free Europe. As Defense Minister, I visited your war memorial. It was a solemn reminder of how much your country gave. And the everlasting obligation Europe owes to your men and women who sacrificed their lives for our common freedom. We have a duty to not just preserve their legacy, but to fortify it. Today, this task has a new urgency. I recently said that Europe could no longer be custodian of the old world order. This just reflects the reality of our changing environment. But this does not mean giving up on who we are, on our values. That matters, whether you are Europe or regional power like Australia. Accepting the world as it is simply means making choices sooner and smarter, both as governments and institutions. And I stand here today proud to tell you that Europe is changed. And you can see that with how much ambition I have for this relationship. One of the indulgences of past decades has been to think our world and our interests can be defined by our neighborhood. Nowhere proves that more false than Australia. It can take us more than 24 hours to fly here, but so many of the issues that challenge you in Perth are the same as in Paris. Take energy prices. None of us is immune to the shocks, both geopolitical and economic, that the war in Iran brings to our populations. Pain at the pump is hard for our citizens. And just another reminder that building our resilience is today's job. We in Europe have been reckoning with our dependencies, particularly with Russian gas. There were warning signs, and we learned the lesson in the hardest of ways in February 2022. For context, imagine, for example, if here in Australia you were forced to stop selling your iron ore overnight. In a way, this is what we have had to do in Europe. Russian gas, a no-go overnight. And after our societies had already withstood so much, first with the financial crisis, then the pandemic, then the beginning of the war in Ukraine, and now a second energy, gas, and oil price shock, diversification was and remains a necessity. And this is why I am proud that we have made decarbonization a defining pillar of our free trade agreement. It is hard-headed common sense. In my 6 years as president, I've witnessed firsthand how climate change is ravaging our continent. From floods in Valencia to the wildfires in Greece, which Australian firefighters came and helped put out. We all know what we are seeing is more severe. Dorothea McKellar wrote of Australia's droughts and flooding rains affecting your sunburned country. But the point is, these climate events have become more frequent and more intense. And it is our common responsibility to find solutions to power the planet we leave our children. This is why I am so pleased that Australia is considering entering Horizon Europe. Horizon is the world's largest research and innovation program. So joining this will put Australian researchers alongside Europe's to create tomorrow's technologies, whether in clean tech, quantum, or dual-use capabilities. Our brightest minds are coming together. With geopolitics at a boiling point, we know firsthand that the more you build homegrown energy, the sooner you get independent, and thus can shield yourself from energy price shocks. Yeah. We are in a race to electrify our economies, and this is what future generations will judge us on. Yeah. But the war in the Middle East is not just contained to the economic costs. Today's world shows that security threats are no longer restrained by distance, but are enabled by technology. Malicious actors are able to reach into our borders without ever leaving their own. Europe, like Australia, doesn't choose how threats come to us, but we all suffer their fallout. What happens in Ukraine matters in Unli. Australians have always understood this, which is why you have remained steadfast in support of European security. It should not be lost on anyone that the same surveillance plane that flew over Poland to help protect Ukraine is now in the Gulf, helping defend our partners under attack from Iran. Equally, it should not be lost on anyone that Ukraine has rushed to the aid of the Gulf states to help them defend their skies against the same Iranian Shahed drones that have been killing Ukrainians from the sky for years. Their cooperation has deepened, and there is no clearer example than the unimaginable sight of North Koreans fighting Ukrainians on European soil. We in Europe have also been battling attempts to undermine our democratic societies. And foreign malign interference is just another example of the threats we face converging. As our adversaries adapt to cooperate together, we too must respond together. Because when we stand side by side, we are stronger. And this is why I am so pleased you have accepted our offer of a security and defense partnership. This is what we will, or have just signed today, creating a new defense industrial base so that we are ready to keep our people safe. Because for us in this chamber, this is our number one duty. Mr. Speaker, in the same way Australia understands that Europe's security is integral to its own, Europe knows the reverse is also true. Stability in the Indo-Pacific is our common goal. And this is why when I went to India in January, we also signed a defense and security partnership. With these agreements, We can bring together our expertise to secure our maritime routes, collaborate to counter cyber warfare, and build new defense technologies together. Mr. Speaker, another of the realities that this new world has shown us is that dependencies can be weaponized. Australia knows this all too well. Europe, too, has been challenged by its dependencies, not just on Russian energy, but also for our reliance on imports from a singular supplier. We cannot and will not absorb China's export-led growth model and its industrial overcapacity. Last year, for the first time, every single EU member state ran a trade deficit with China. Threat to our supply chain security and the shock to our industrial base need urgent responses. And these are responses we can only devise together. For both Europe and Australia, getting China right is a strategic imperative. And this is why bringing to life our critical minerals partnership will be crucial to our success. We cannot be over-dependent on any supplier for such crucial ingredients. And that is precisely why we need each other. Our security is your security. And with our new security and defense partnership, we have each other's back.
They are resource-starved. They are hunting for lithium, iron ore, and energy to replace what they can no longer steal or manipulate from the sovereign Africa, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, because we know that these are the only sovereign states in Africa. Von der Leyen made a dark confession. Europe is changed. We are rearming. We are becoming an independent Europe. So before they were not independent, that is what they are telling us. So Africa, open your eyes. When Europe says they are rearming and preparing, they aren't just talking about Russia. They are talking about a world where they have to enforce their interests because soft power and aid no longer work. She signed a security and defense partnership with Australia, just as they did in Ghana. And Ghanaians will see this and say, even they did it with Australia. But you and Australia, different people altogether. They are building a new defense industrial base. They are securing maritime routes. They are securing maritime routes. They are preparing for a brutal world where they take what they need by force, by crook, and by hook. And where will they do it? It's only in Africa, because Australia will never allow them to have their way. They want Australia that dependence can be weaponized. You understand? This is the ultimate hypocrisy. Europe has weaponized Africans' dependency on the euro, on aid, and on security assistance for 60 good years. Now that Africa is weaponizing its own resources by withholding them, Europe is calling the world brutal. Did you see the connections and the hypocrisy? The connection is clear. Europe is crumbling. They are flying 24 hours to Australia because the 6-hour flight to the Sahel no longer ends in warm welcome. They are looking for mates in Australia because they have run out of servants in Africa. Von der Leyen said Europe could no longer be custodian of the old world order. Africa, she's telling you the truth for once. They are no longer in charge. The old world is dead. The old world is dead. The world is diversifying. They are diversifying. They are rearming. They are forming new security blocks with anyone who will listen. If Europe is preparing for a brutal and unforgiving world, Africa must do the same. We must stop being the neighborhood that defines and start being the powerhouse that defines itself. The choice is simple. Do we follow Ghana's lead and sign new security partnership deals with the desperate Europe? Or do we follow the Sahelian leaders and build a continent that no longer provides the comfort blanket for those who consider the world brutal only when they aren't in control? The world is not brutal to the Europeans because they came as change. The Dark Confession in Australia wasn't a speech. It was a war briefing. Let me know your thoughts. Is Europe rearming a threat to Africa? Must we prepare or must we continue to live in the old world order, where we are the ones that are being trampled upon? Or we move alongside the world like the Finland president said, we must be players in this new world. Europeans have admitted their power is no longer in control. They have lost it. This is a new world order. And now they are struggling to make sure they live, they survive. They are not trying to be good to the world. The world that they used to be in control, enslaved people with brutality, is no longer a world of brutality. But this new world is brutal to them because they are no longer in charge. Is Africa listening? Are we seeing what these people are doing? Do we follow these people and what they say? Or do we expect them to rearm like she said and come back and still enslave us like they called at Davos, that they should come together and make sure they survive? They continue to starve you. They continue to take the resources and continue to make the African poor. Or the African will be like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, fight for total control to make sure this new world order, we don't take orders, but we give orders. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided before, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we'll make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world. In Europe.